One school of thought is like, never do business with family. Don't do money with the people that you love. I have a little bit of a different thought process on that.
Hey, Riley, welcome to the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast. I'm so excited you're here. Are you ready?
Hi, Sue. I am ready. I'm excited. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, good, good. You became financially independent at 25. So that is quite an impressive feat in just under 3 years, which I love. And you've gotten married the last couple of years. And I have you on the podcast because we have had some pretty interesting off camera conversations. And I want to pick those up and capture those. And we're going to go into the weeds. I'm excited about that. Are you
I am
excited about
excited.
that?
I love getting into the weeds. I feel like that's where all the good stuff is.
Okay, perfect. Well, you know what? I like to let my guests start where they want to pick up their story, and we will bounce from there.
Sure. Well, this is the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast. So I will start at the beginning and breeze through the first 20 years in about 4 seconds. So I did a whole bunch of things for the beginning of my life that don't seem readily applicable to where I'm at today and what I'm doing today. But I think what's important, hitting on this small steps concept, is everything I've ever done, and this my mom really drilled this into us, that everything you do, you should do your best. You should just do with all your heart, right? So I found myself in a lot of situations, whether it was sports that I was kind of over and wanting to quit, or college curriculums that I didn't really want to be in. I've always just felt that it was worth it to go all out or not do it at all. And what that has done for me in life is given me some momentum, right? I've had momentum, I've been moving forward, and I have been on the wrong path and moving in the wrong direction. But it's a lot easier to have momentum and make a course correction than it is to be sitting still. So that's the first 20 years of my life. When I was about 20 years old, I met my wife, Emily, and she is the best part of my life. I shouldn't say that. God, Emily, my family, and my daughter is the best part of my life. So I've done a lot of things. I had a brief career with the Department of Defense. My wife, Emily, was a cardiac nurse, still is a cardiac nurse in her heart. She's now a stay-at-home mom. And now my full-time place in life is as a real estate agent and a full-time investor, home flipper. But primarily in my heart, I'm an adventurer.
Sounds like it to go from where you were to where you are now. So, how did you get bit by the real estate bug then?
How did I get bit by the real estate bug? Accident. When Emily and I were engaged, we were kind of working through like some premarital exercises, and we were talking about money, and we were trying to organize our finances. And she had some debt left over from some medical debt. She's a cancer survivor, 2 times cancer survivor. And I was kind of raised on the Dave Ramsey system, watched my mom use that system to dig herself out of debt multiple times. So it was all about paying off loans and keeping our expenses as low as we could. My wife had a pretty affordable living situation with a family member, but she was 31 years old and really wanted, like, she was just ready to live on her, to be on her own. She'd been on her own before, and she's ready to be on her own again. She really wanted to buy a house. But we're doing this Dave Ramsey analysis, and we're like, it just doesn't make sense to go increase your living expense. And then I just had this kind of thought, and I think it was actually assisted by some family members who said, well, what if you just got a duplex, right? Then you'd have somebody else to help you pay your mortgage, and it would be affordable or similarly affordable to her current living situation. So my wife bought her first investment property before we got married. And that's where I learned a lot of things. I started Googling like how to do a bathroom remodel, how to write a lease. And I
Oh,
would
yeah,
get,
there you go. That's a home ownership 101, whether you rent it out or not.
there you
You know,
go.
fix the bathroom. I have to pause you for a moment,
Yeah.
though. I taught Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University for almost a decade. I think he's great for helping people get out of debt. I mildly disagree. I probably it's more than mild at this point on his take on debt
Mhm.
because there's good debt and there's bad debt. And when I did the Dave Ramsey thing, all debt was bad. And what happens when you get stuck in that mentality, it takes you out of the real estate investment world and realizing that, wait a minute, there is good debt, like you were talking about, where you bought a duplex, right? So if you can buy a duplex, if the interest rate is the right number and the numbers work out, then the person on the other side paying the rent is going to pay for your mortgage. I mean, it works quite beautifully.
It
We
does
love
work quite
real estate
beautifully.
for that reason. So I had to pause you on. I was cringing on the Dave Ramsey thing, but I think he kind of, you know, needs to educate us a little bit more on good debt, bad debt.
Yes,
That's my
no, I agree and disagree. I obviously am a pro debt person. I have a lot of debt in my life. I get real estate loans. But I think Dave Ramsey does an excellent job serving his audience.
yes.
And his audience, in my approximation, is people who have found themselves in a place of personal debt, often due to a lack of self discipline, financial planning.
Yeah,
So I think that
absolutely.
Dave Ramsey is like level one, right? You have to learn to walk before you can learn to run. You probably shouldn't be running out and buying real estate investments if you have $60,000 of credit card loans. So I think he gives really good advice for a portion of the population that is trying to solve a specific problem. But
Yeah.
once you solve that problem, and you get your personal debt, bad debt, cars, credit cards, that stuff taken care of, and you have some money to invest, it might be time to graduate from Dave Ramsey. I also know people that, have built wealth without debt. It tends to
You can do
be,
that too. Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, it tends to be, it's really individual.
it is. You
To
have
the
to know yourself.
is you have to know yourself, like, everybody has a different income, if somebody's making only $85,000 a year versus somebody who's making $185,000 a year, and if they both have their expenses under control, then how they save their money, how they invest it is going to look different to those people. I think you're right, to your point, I agree. Dave gets you so far, right?
Yeah.
And if you want more, you have to realize that there are other options out there.
Especially if you want faster. His approach to wealth creation tends to just be a little slower and a little safer. If you want to grow a little bit more aggressively, there's other educators in the space.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. So, how did you use the power of real estate to help those who are around you? As you bought this first duplex, talk a little bit about what happened in the couple years after.
So that's a really great question. I believe just fundamentally, there's kind of two schools of thoughts on this. One school of thought is like never do business with family, right? All it does is ruin relationships. Don't do money with the people that you love. I have a little bit of a different thought process on that. And it's basically that if I'm going to improve my quality of life, I want to bring those that I love with me on that journey, right? For example, if you got to this kind of coveted ideal financial freedom or financial independence, as they call it, right? Financial independence, retire early, and you never had to work again for the rest of your life. And you could afford financially to do whatever you want, whenever you want, like you have no restrictions. But all of your friends and family members and everybody that you love has jobs. Those people can't go on vacation to Costa Rica with you. Those people can't go out to lunch during the middle of the day on a Wednesday, right? So my kind of mission has been to bring those around me along with me. And I look at wealth creation, if you will, like a ladder, right? And there's a whole bunch of people above me on the ladder who have quite literally fed me, mentored me, reached down and pulled me up, right? Well, I want to be connected both ways. I want to be able to reach up and receive knowledge, information, loans, friendship, support from those people that are a little further on this journey, as well as reach down and give knowledge, friendship, support, encouragement to people that are also kind of just climbing this and I don't even want to call it a wealth creation ladder. What it is it's it's the struggle of human existence, right? And people are at different places in their journey all the time. So one of the things that, man, there's a lot of things that I'm proud of, and there's a lot of things that I would have done differently. I guess I'll take this opportunity to talk about why we started building wealth in the first place. When my wife, when I married Emily, um, she had she was a survivor of a brain cancer diagnosis, and she had various mixed medical expectations for her future. And we knew that there's a pretty good chance that we were going to end up in a fight for her life at some point during our marriage. And it was important to me that when that day came, if that day came, that I was able to actually be there, not like having to run off to work because that was the reality of my situation, right? You have to go to work to pay the bills. So my first why in wealth creation really was Emily. I wanted to be there for Emily if and when her time of need came. And it's interesting because we had this heads up of a high probability of trouble, if you will. Most people don't have that heads up or that red flag. But the reality is, any of us can find ourselves in a position of need at any time, whether we see it coming or not. And my wife actually did end up having a round two with cancer. It wasn't brain cancer the second time, it was breast cancer. And because we had put ourselves in the financial position, now, when I say the financial position, let me just clarify. We were by no means rich, right? We don't drive jets. We don't have ocean houses. We don't have, we just were in a position where we had a little bit of savings. It took the financial pressure off so that we could really focus on what we needed to focus on. And that was Emily's experience, in chemotherapy journey and recovery. Emily was pregnant on chemotherapy. And our daughter Aspen was born 12 weeks premature. She was 2 pounds, 4 ounces, 2 pounds exactly at her smallest. She was this big. And during COVID, we spent 67 days in the neonatal ICU. And one of the things I'm the most proud of in my life really is we asked the doctors, what can we do? There's a whole bunch of things we know nothing about. What can we do to influence the outcome? And they said, skin to skin care, hold your girl, tell her that you love her, be there for her. We took that as our mission and we held her for 7 to 16 hours a day for 67 days. We sat in this 10 by 10 room. I didn't work, Emily didn't work, and we were in this position where we were able to love and care for our daughter. And the sad reality is there were other people there at that NICU that loved their children just as much as we love ours. But they were in a different circumstance. They had to go to work to put food on the table for their family, which is a very normal circumstance for a human being, right? But imagine that your value, your heart, and everything in you wants to be there for your family when they need you the most. But your reality is, if I don't leave this hospital room and go to work, we're going to lose our house, right? So my entire financial journey has been about aligning my reality with our values. I don't want to live out of alignment with my values just because of circumstance. I want to give myself the tools to live my values. And sometimes that looks like not putting myself in a position of financial distress, right? Not making that extra purchase, not going the extra vacation because I don't want to be slave to my job. I don't want to spend tomorrow's money today. So that was a little monologue on how I feel about why finances are so important, because finances are the reality that we live our values through.
Wow. Okay, Riley. So just listening to you talk about your purpose and your why you want to be financially independent. as I was listening to you, I was thinking about the culture and everybody wants to be a millionaire. If you ask somebody, why do you want to be a millionaire? Oh, well, because I want to take vacations and I want to go on trips
Mhm.
and I want to do this and I want to do that. Everybody
Mhm.
wants to be rich, but I don't think the thought for them went into what you went into your why. And for you, you have a long-term perspective, and that why set you up to be able to be there for your daughter. You didn't know that circumstance was going to be coming, but you knew
Mhm.
someday something would. And
Mm.
how many of us walk around in life just living day to day and living paycheck to paycheck and then thinking, well, I'm going to start living my life when I retire at 65. When the reality is that we might not even get tomorrow.
Mm. And for us, like, we have actual reason to believe that, like, life could be short. And that really puts things into perspective when you make your decisions. I truly believe you're right. You hit the nail on the head when you talk about wealth creation and being rich and kind of the mindset around that. Vacations are great, fancy cars are great, big houses are awesome, but I think the more important reason to have a good cash flow situation in your life and a good balance sheet. And there's two ways to do that, by the way. One way is to make more money, but the other way is to lower your fixed expenses, right? People struggle to live below their means at every income level. At every income level, people struggle to live below their means. And if you do live below your means, what I find is, yes, it's great to have extra money for vacations and extra money for this and extra money for that. But when life gets really, really bad, or as my friend John says, when feces hits the rotating oscillator, it's really helpful to have options. And if if you have some extra finances, you can get different medical care. You can take time to be with loved ones. We all want to be with loved ones in their time of need,
Right.
but sometimes we are obligated to our job because of decisions we've made in the past to potentially overspend, and we're not able to go to follow our heart, right?
Right.
So I want to put myself in a position where I can follow my heart, where if I want to go be with somebody tomorrow, I can. And if I want to make a career change, that's not going to be as financially lucrative. I
Mhm.
can do that because it's right. It's right for me.
Yeah.
So,
I want to pull out of that a couple of things that you said. The first is we don't want to have a financial crisis on top of a personal crisis. So it's much easier to mitigate a personal crisis if you know your finances, at least your bare minimum. Your
mhm,
four walls are covered. So I
mhm,
hear that. Hear that in your story that you have the ability to go help a loved one and not have to go to work at that time. The second thing is that I just wanna make sure that we're not attacking the W-2, we're not attacking the
yeah,
job, but what we're really looking at is that there are opportunities within whatever job somebody has, the ability to save. And
mhm,
that when they're looking at what's coming in, if you can live below the means and you can build up that cushion, then when time comes and you have to temporarily leave that job, you have that choice. We talk a lot about, everybody has to be financially free. Nobody has to work anymore. There's no W-2s. The reality is that if all of us stayed home and we're financially free, there are jobs out there that people have to perform,
right.
So it's not a we all hate W-2s. I think it's take what
No.
income you have, steward it wisely, and then create that environment for yourself where if and when, really shouldn't even say if, when the day
Mhm,
comes that you have to step away from that job because your values, as you said, your values meet the reality of what's going on. You can say, okay, I can go be with my loved one because I know my expenses are taken care of.
Yeah.
So for that, Dave Ramsey's good on that one because I think he says the emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months. So that's basically what we're talking about is that emergency fund. And but what we don't live with that. A lot of us live with that today, like what we can do
Yeah.
today. So, do you have a story you'd like to share where you've used the wealth that you've created to help somebody and better their life?
Sure. For example, this morning I worked out with two friends of mine that I went to college with, and I am further along in my financial journey than these gentlemen. And I have been helping them and mentoring them and working for them and with them. And we partner on some things. And I've been their real estate agent for a number of years. And I've just invested a lot into them, as mentees, if you will. So that's kind of one area where I'm reaching out and helping them. But these two kids are shredded. They're so fit, they're so healthy, they look great, they're killing it. And I'm 30 pounds overweight. So every morning I go to the gym with these guys and they teach me how to work out because I don't know how. Literally, I don't even know how to pick up a weight properly, right? So they're helping me, I'm helping them, they're receiving from me, and I'm receiving from them, right? It's
Mm.
those are the types of relationships we're looking for. My grandparents, kind of one of the other things that I'm proud of. This is a great story for this. My grandparents are senior citizens, and they don't have any life savings. They got to this place in their life where he was ready to retire, my grandfather, and they had their house paid off. But when you're on Social Security, replacing the roof, paying the taxes, paying the insurance, all of
Mhm.
these things still start to add up, right? And they were kind of at this place where they know they need a roof in the next few years. They know their septic system is old. And if one of those things needs to be replaced, they're done for. They can't afford it, right? So my grandfather was telling us and telling everyone really about this problem, looking for a solution. And they have equity. They have all this equity in their house, and I'm pretty good at investing money, but I don't have any. I'm broke, right? But my wife and I have this business. We're pretty good at buying rental real estate and investing money and generating income. And so we talked to them. We said, what do you really want? And they said, we want enough money to buy a new car. We've always wanted to snowbird. We've always wanted to go to Florida. We live in Maine. We've always wanted to go to Florida in the winter times and escape the cold weather. There's a trailer down here that we'd like to buy. It's next to friends of ours. We know the neighborhood. We'd like to buy that. We'd like to have enough money for a new car. Other than that, we just want to know that we're going to have a place to live for the rest of our life. So, I pulled out a spreadsheet and I said, okay, well, if I bought their house for the amount of money that they need to buy a new car and buy a new trailer, right? And there was some equity left on top of that. Could I afford to continue paying for the house for them? So what we did is they actually sold us their house, bought a new car, and bought this trailer in Florida, and really understanding that we would continue to provide for them housing for the rest of their life. So we bought the house, and they continue to live there, and we continue to live there with them. And I'm hesitant to share this story because I don't want your audience to hear it and think he got money from his grandparents, and that's why he was able to create wealth, and I'm not. The reality is they were willing to trust us with their life savings because we had a track record of success, and we had a track record of treating them really well. And when they did, they trusted us with their life savings, and we invested that money. So they are a big part of our wealth creation. We helped them out of a problem. They helped us accelerate our business. We bought some rental real estate, and a few years later, we're doing all right. We're doing pretty well with that. So we moved them from that house. It was Emily, Aspen, myself, my grandparents, and my younger brother at one point in time, and Emily's brother at one point in time, all living in this little 1,200 square foot house. We sold that house, and we've moved to a bigger house. They've come with me. They now have a space in my home that is larger than the entire home that we were all living in before. I've, I'm, I'm proud of that because we've been able to elevate their quality of life, help them fulfill their dreams. They're snowbirding in Florida, which is something they've wanted to do forever. And we are further ahead financially because of it, and they live a better life because of it. So they've given to us, we've given to them. Also, just throw a pitch out there, having grandparents live in your house really helps when you have a 3-year-old. So that's another way that they give back to us. They give to us, and it's a win-win.
And you have to all get along.
We
So
have to all go along.
that helps. That helps too. I don't know if I could have lived with my grandparents, but that's a different era and a different
Right.
time. But I love
100% not
yeah,
saying
I
that this
mean,
is the best
yeah, it
solution for
doesn't
everyone.
yeah, but you know what? What's great about your story is that you looked for solutions. Somebody had a problem and you creatively found a solution. And what I'm also hearing in your story is that your heart was there. It wasn't about the money. And a lot of times when we look at financial freedom or we look at building wealth, if you only keep your eyes on the money, then the outcome isn't always what you wanted it to be. When I listen to a lot of people's stories, because I've had a lot of people on my podcast, m- their stories go in the line of, yes, I built this thing and then the money followed. I didn't think the money was going to follow the thing that I built.
Mm.
And I think that's really important to keep in mind that when your heart and your mind is in the right place, it keeps you from being jaded or enamored by just the money that it's going to produce. So that's what I love about your
So I
story.
really love that you brought that up because I think that that's true. Like most big businesses are created because somebody solved a really important problem. And that
Right.
turned out to be pretty profitable. Another thing that you hear in people's success stories, I hear it a lot with my friends and people that I have relationships with. Hey, I built this wealth and now I'm 35 years old or 40 years old or 50 years old and I'm financially free and I have 3 houses and a car and I am really not happy and my wife is probably going to leave me and like I'm losing my mind, man. I don't know what to do. I don't know what. So money can help increase your quality of life. But I know a lot of people who have not found themselves happy or richer.
What are some things that you personally would do to help
Mm,
you so that you're not in that spot when you're 35, wealthy and saying, "Oh, my wife's ready to leave me and this money didn't bring me the
mm.
happiness that I thought it would."
So, 2 or 3 thoughts on that. One, be happy or poorer, right? So, be happy now. Be happy now with what you have now. The reality is, if you live in the United States with a roof over your head, you are living a better quality life than. Do you know what the top 1% income threshold is globally?
Yeah.
$32,000. If your household makes $32,000, you are a 1%er. If you have a roof over your head, you had running water and like access to medical care, you are living a better life than most of the world currently, and almost everyone who has ever lived before us, right? Most of us are not chopping wood with an axe to heat our homes via open fire. So we live good lives. We have a lot to be thankful for. And I think abundance flows out of gratitude. So we have
Right.
a lot to be thankful for. Be happy today. Never put your happiness in the tomorrow bucket. If you are telling yourself, I will be happy when, that is a dangerous way to live your life. One, tomorrow may never come. That's a reality. Tomorrow may never come. Two, you probably won't. If you are not happy today, you probably will not be happier with more money, with a better home, in a new location, in a different marriage, after your children leave the home, when you retire. Like, if you're not happy today, you probably won't be happier later. So I have a coaching business and I do this exercise with my clients and I think it's super impactful and it should be the starting point. and my wife and I have this conversation every year, in the absence of money, if money didn't even exist in our society, if it didn't exist, if you weren't limited by it, if you could go anywhere, have anything, see anyone, get on any plane, eat anything. I mean, if you could do anything ever, and you didn't have to farm food, heat your home, if you had complete and total freedom, what would you do with your time? Who would you talk to? What would you eat? What would your day look like? What would your conversations be about? How much quiet time would you have? What would your purpose be? What would your values be? If you can define that, because the reality is, if you were Elon Musk, all that does for you is it puts you closer to that position where you have no limitations. You still have to figure out what to do with your time, with your money, who to talk to, how to live. So what I find is, if you can do that exercise, hey, what is my ideal life? How much of that time is indoor? How much of that time is outdoor? Do I read? Do I sing? Do I dance? Do I craft? What do I do? How much time do I spend with my wife and my kids? Where do we live? What's our community? If you draw that out and you actually write that down, the thing is, you can work backwards from there. You can work backwards from there and say, okay, my ideal life is to have a small cottage on a lake. Okay, that costs $350,000 or $600,000 or whatever that costs, right? Now you have a starting point. To say I want to be the richest man in the world just because I want to be the richest man in the world is a poor plan. Because what's actually better is to define how you want to live. And the best lives don't necessarily cost the most money, right? There's a threshold. There's a threshold for human survival. There are monks. There are very, very happy people that have nothing. Their net worth is zero. Are you living a better life than them? I don't know. So I think we get into this comparison. I want to be richer than Zuckerberg or Elon or Jeff Bezos, or I want to have this because so-and-so has this. Like, example, cars. I'm not a car guy. So for a car enthusiast to go buy a Maserati or, a Porsche or whatever, for an enthusiast to go buy that car, they might derive value from it. That might authentically be a worthwhile investment for them because they're a car guy. They love cars. They want the best car. If you're not a car guy and the only reason you're buying a car is because your neighbor has a nicer car, the reality is that car is not going to bring you near the amount of fulfillment and happiness that you think it may.
I love it because you bring the mindset into it, and I can see the coaching come out of you as you're talking as well. The care for people, and you ask some really hard questions that I think a lot of us don't ask ourselves. And do you find, for example, what are your values and how do you see yourself in the future? I know people sometimes can be overwhelmed by thinking, okay, where am I going to be in 10 years? And I hear what you're saying about reverse engineer it. If my end goal is to someday have a little house on a lake somewhere, let's reverse engineer that and figure out the small steps that we need to take in order to
Mm,
get us there. And I think we sometimes lose perspective. Do you find when you talk to people that people have this big grandiose desire, idea, goal, whatever you want to call it, but then look at it like, well, it's out there. I don't know what to do. It's just out there. I'm just going to sit here. And it's overcoming that first step to realize, well, if you want what's out there, you've got to start doing one or two things today to get you out there.
right. I think that's the crux of goal setting, right? That's how we set goals. We have to break it down to today. And I think the only way to break it down to today is to start with a really clear end goal. To say, I want to be healthier is pretty vague. Do you want to be heavier, thinner, faster, stronger, older, younger? I mean, what does healthier mean, right?
Right.
So if healthier means I want to be able to climb to the top of Mount Katahdin, which is the tallest mountain in Maine. Okay, then let's start working towards that, right? I want to be thinner. Okay, well, let's make a plan to do that. I want to have better cardiovascular health. Okay, well, let's change our diet accordingly. Health means different to everyone. What I find actually is the reason this conversation gets avoided. This is a tough conversation. Like, what's the purpose of your life? Like, this is deep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you know what? Not only is it difficult to answer, but when you have somebody who has many years now, I'm 52. I'll be 52 in a couple weeks. You are in your 20s, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my life and my life purpose has changed over the years
Of
too.
course.
And so we don't give ourselves enough credit. We think that, oh, well, I should know what my life purpose is when I graduate from high school and I go to college, and this is going to set me for the rest of my life. That was old school thinking. And,
Mm-hmm.
years ago when I came out of college, that's pretty much what it was. You go, you get your profession, you sit in it for 30 years, you retire. And the reality is that life does not usually go that way.
Mm. Right, and it shouldn't, and it's so much pressure to put on a human. Tell me what
Sure.
you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
At
I mean,
18
that's
years
so
old, I had many
ludicrous.
mental breakdowns over that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and it's so ludicrous too because now that I look at it, I mean, I look back at my life and go, "Okay, I went through so many different iterations." Now, you can say there are common threads. Everybody has them. It's
Mhm.
that value that drives them. It's that belief system that's behind it. It's that one thing that crosses over anything that they do, and you find that there's a constant. And I think all of us, if we deep down really start thinking about
Mm.
what is that common thread that you see in all these different areas in your life? That could be your core, but as far as what you do, how you attain it, where you're going, those directions can change. You could have a life-altering event. With you guys, the reality of your wife's condition makes you choose a path because, you know, the possibility of death is closer
Yeah,
to
or at least
you,
more aware.
actually more
More aware.
aware. Closer was the wrong word,
Sure.
aware is the better word, right? You're more aware of it, and the reason I chose closer is that somebody who's in their 20s thinks death is something very
Hmm.
far off. You
Mm.
don't you don't have to worry about that right now. I'm not even gonna think about that.
Right,
Where somebody like me, I'm closer, because
right.
that's the reality of my age.
Yeah,
So, I think when we put things into proper time horizons and we kind of think of our circumstances and our life the way they're going, it really, you want to capture what it is that you're really trying to achieve,
absolutely.
and where you're headed. And it goes back to these hard questions. What are our values? What are our virtues? What are
Mm.
those things we really want to accomplish? And that they're not always easy to answer.
They're not.
um,
I want to give a tip because I find because I coach on this frequently, right? There's kind of two types of people in this dreaming mentality, right? There's dreamers. I'm one of them. Always thinking about a land far off and a lifetime in the future, and I'm a dreamer. And then there's people who are actually pretty intimidated by the future. And my wife falls into that category. We're gonna do a goal setting retreat this weekend, and she'll say things like, I don't have a lot of goals. I don't think about the future that often. It's a big ask to ask somebody to dream far into the future. And there's a lot of reasons for those roadblocks, but I won't get into all those reasons today. But what I find when I work with coaching clients and I face that resistance, one of the questions I will ask is say, forget about the future. Forget about the future. What if today was ideal? What if today was perfect? What if you only had the next 24 hours? What would that look like? What if today was perfect? Well, maybe I would read and maybe I would exercise and maybe I would fly to Japan. And okay, now we're dreaming, but it's not in the future, it's today. We say, what if today was ideal? What if today was perfect? And then we can say, okay, how can we make tomorrow? Like not tomorrow, the future, tomorrow, a little bit closer
mm.
to that ideal than today, right?
I love it.
And so just pick those little things, because we as humans, we can't change everything about ourselves and everything about our condition immediately, but we can pick one or two things that we're going to change. The other scary thing that happens in coaching, this is like the most uncomfortable position for me. This happens relatively frequently. Recently, I was coaching a couple, sitting down and having a conversation with them, and I asked that question, went through that exercise. What does your ideal life look like? What is it? Tell me what in the absence of financial restrictions, how do you spend your time? And the wife says, I just I want to have everything I need. I want to be able to stay home and relax and read my book. And I don't even want to have to go to the grocery store. In an ideal world, I would never have to leave the home. I would just be with my family in my space, with my artwork and my books, doing my thing. And her husband says, well, in my ideal, we travel and we hike and we go visit the world and we do all of this and it's going to be great. And they looked at each other like, oh my goodness, this is a problem. It's a problem.
It can be. Yeah, it can be.
So we had to and this probably has happened 4 or 5 times in the last year for me with clients is, okay, let's work back. Let's work back from there. So you guys fell in love for a reason. So let's figure out what that was. Where's the common thread? And then we can go back and pick out, okay, well, we both really enjoy tennis. And can we incorporate some of the travel and some of the at-home time around those things? Because we all have common threads. I can find any stranger in the world. We have a common thread. We all have a mother. We most of us have loved and lost. Many of us have children. There's things about the human experience. We all eat food. There's things about the human experience that anybody can connect over. One of the best ways to connect with people who speak different languages is over food. We all eat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we love our food. Yeah, that's cool. What did you think would be hard about pursuing financial freedom, and it turns out that it wasn't? And then flip that. What's one thing that you thought would be easy and it turned out being more challenging than you thought?
Okay, I will answer both of those questions. What did I think would be hard? I thought that it would be hard to get money. That's one thing I thought would be hard. I thought it would be hard to acquire funds. And what I learned is if you have a skill, an opportunity, right? If you'll learn the craft, if you're an app developer and you have no money, if you will just go create the world's greatest app, somebody will give you money to advertise it and fund it, right? People believe in ideas. There's a whole bunch of people out there who have money, but nothing to invest in. If you'll give them a reason to invest in you, they will. So that's something that I learned that has just been we just did our first syndication. So I bought a building that I couldn't afford myself, but I raised money from people that I knew and people that were 1 or 2 relationships away from me. And man, what a compliment when somebody says, I believe in you enough to give you a check. So that's one thing I learned is if you will just learn the craft, the money will follow, kind of like what we talked about earlier. If you go find an opportunity, if you go build a great product, there's money out there to fund it and grow it. What did I think would be easy that was hard? I thought that everything would be easier after a little bit of financial success. I thought marriage would be easier. I thought health would be easier. Every year I tell myself, when I make more money, I'll be less stressed at work and then I'll have time to work out. That's a lie, right? I thought that it would be easier to be a better father. I thought that it would be easier to do all of these things. And that's, I guess what I've learned is some of the most important problems in life, money actually doesn't have a lot of impact on. If your children hate you, that's a tough problem for money to solve. If your marriage is not good, it's a tough problem for money to solve. If you have cancer, money can help you get different treatments. But bad health and biology doesn't care how rich you are. Rich people and poor people all die. We all die. So That's something else that I've learned, that the most important things in my life is not binary. It's not rich or poor. The most important thing, I want to be rich in my marriage. I want to be rich in my family. I want to be rich in my spiritual life. I want to have a relationship with God. Money moves the needle very little in all of those areas. And those areas bring me the most happiness. The last question I want to pose and answer, another thing that I was wrong about, and this is really important. I was raised in Maine, and in Maine, we kind of have this mindset. I was also raised in the church, and I am a active member of the church, and I love the Lord, and I love to be active in the things of God. But in some church communities, we almost idolize poverty.
Mhm.
We almost are proud, like we're proud of this blue collar struggle. And we tell ourselves that everyone who has had more success than me in the financial arena of life, they got there by screwing over the little guy. They got there by stepping on the back of somebody else. They must have unfairly attained what they have. And there must be losers, terrible people. All rich people are terrible. This is actually the mindset that I had as a child. Is like rich people are scumbags, right? What I've learned is that there are people that are not great humans. There are rich people that aren't great humans. There are police officers that aren't great humans. There are poor people that aren't great humans. There's people in every walk of life that are not great humans. But most people that have created wealth have done a few things. They've exercised like a great amount of self-discipline. They've exercised a great amount of persistence, and they've provided real value to others. The reason Jeff Bezos is wealthy is because all of us enjoy shopping at home without getting in the. We love it. You order something the next day, it's on your doorstep. I mean, it's incredible. We love it. We love the product. So we shouldn't hate him for his financial success. We love the product. Um, I have found that most people who have generated wealth from, especially first generation wealth creators, right? Um, they have added a great amount of value to other people. And once you meet your immediate needs, food on my table, gas in my car, heat in my home, there does open up the possibility to spend a little bit more time investing in yourself and your personal development. So I know some really high quality, successful individuals that are, I don't look up to them because they're wealthy. I look up to them because they're the best fathers I know. I look up to them because they're the best husbands I know. Now, there is people who are not wealthy that I also look up to because they're the best fathers I know. They're the healthiest people I know. They're the most dedicated people I know, right? I don't look up to Tiger Woods because he's rich. I look up to him because he's good at golf, right? So
Mhm.
you can appreciate something about everyone, and you can also find fault with everyone. So I've really had a big change in that mindset because I used to just assume that everyone who had more success than me, specifically in finances, but really in any area of life, that was somehow unfair and that opportunity somehow wasn't available to me. And I think those are limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I was thinking about what you were saying on how sometimes, we put people into a box and we idolize them. But what I really liked about what you were talking about is that you can honor a person for a quality that you see in them. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, Tiger Woods,
Mm-hmm.
hands down, he's an amazing golfer. But in his personal life, I mean, not so much so, I don't know, that's but
Right. And
that's not why you're
it's
looking
not
to
why I
him, you're
love him.
looking
So
to
I'm not
him.
going to stop
Yeah,
loving him
right,
because.
right, right, that's right, you're not gonna judge him on that, and the other thing that you said that I absolutely love is that all of us are flawed, all of us have those qualities within us that aren't so great. We're human, and I think we sometimes forget, everybody and I fall into this trap, I want perfect, and
Hmm.
it's not about being perfect. It's not about getting it right all the time.
That's why I think it's so important to take the time to ask yourself questions about yourself and your own values. Because
Sure.
if you spend your life chasing someone else's dream, you will get there and be grossly disappointed.
Right, because it's somebody else's. It's not your dream, and I've heard that before too. That's the other thing. It's the realization that you're living somebody else's life. And when you wake up and you have that inner strength within you to say, you know what, this was my father's dream. This was my mom's dream. This isn't my dream.
Mm-hmm. This is Rylee of 10 years ago. I'm still slave to my old self. My old self wanted this. I don't want
Yeah.
this anymore. This isn't who
Yeah.
I am today. So you shouldn't live anyone else's dreams, including your own, if they're not your dream anymore. Like, it's okay to change. It's
It's a
okay to
great
change. I
point.
think it's really
Yeah.
important to just align our actions. And my whole coaching model is based on, let's align your reality with your values. Let's clearly define your values and what's important to you, and let's try to make a reality that mirrors those values. Let's try to live in integrity with ourselves.
Riley, I've so enjoyed our conversation. You have such a wealth of wisdom in you. It is incredible. And I know we could probably go on for like another hour, but we do have to close at some point.
For sure.
As we come to a close, what's one small step that someone can do today to help them change their tomorrow?
Yeah, this is a great question. I wrote down an answer, but one small step. I'm just pulling this out of the sky because it's what I feel is right to say in this moment, is find somebody that you can be authentic with, somebody that loves you, and be authentic. Have this authentic conversation, you know, and find somebody that, maybe that's your spouse, maybe it's your parent, maybe it's your friend from work. Find somebody to have the conversation and say, hey, I don't know what I am trying to do in life. And I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to just have a conversation. Can we explore this together? Whether that's a coach, a professional coach, or just a friend. Sometimes other people actually know us better than we think they do, and sometimes better than we know ourselves. I've had people look at me in my life and say, why are you chasing that? Is that important to you? Because it doesn't seem like it is, you know? So yeah, I would I don't want to call them an accountability buddy, but find a person that you can be authentic with, and be like, ask life's biggest question, which is, what's important to me? What's my
Mm,
value? What's my purpose?
love it. I love it. Riley, how can people find you?
I am pretty much everywhere. Facebook, Rylee Invests, Instagram. I think I'm Invest with Rylee on Instagram. But Facebook's probably actually the best place to find me.
Okay,
I'm on
that's great.
TikTok, YouTube, everything, but Facebook's the best place to reach me.
Okay, sounds great. Riley, thank you for the gift of your time. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm so glad you joined me today.
Thank you, Stu. I'm so excited for your podcast and for everything that you have going on.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast. I value your time with me and I seek to make every moment count. In order to make lasting change in your life, listening is usually not enough. So I want to ask you, what practical steps are you going to put into action today as a result of listening to this podcast? Remember, any step, any action, no matter how small, starts your journey to a big win. And if you're not sure where to get started, check out my website, personalcoachfinder.com, and find someone who can help. Remember, life doesn't get better by chance, it gets better by choice. Take small steps today and make your life awesome, friends.